From the New York City area, welcome to the Badass Counseling Show, where the master badass himself, Sven Erlandson, takes you deep and gives balm for the soul, baby.
Well, man, it sure is great to have you here. This is the Badass Counseling Show, and boy, am I glad to see you. So nice having you here on the show. My name is Sven Erlandson, and I am joined by my team, Rob the Rocket, who is in studio, and KC, who is in the booth in studio. I, however, am not. For the second week in a row, I am actually in Durham, North Carolina, where Rob has a history. Rob, tell our followers, I think those who listen regularly know your history with Durham, but just re-inform us of your history with Durham.
First, now you finally got it right. It's one syllable. It's Durham.
I'm a northerner.
I understand that. I lived 10 years in North Carolina, and I understand this. And if anybody listens to WDNC or did listen in the 1970s, they may have remembered me, but I doubt it.
And so your history was that you did your undergrad, no, you did grad school here.
At Chapel Hill, yeah.
At Chapel Hill, and you were on the radio.
Yeah, it was fun.
At what was this station? What were the call letters?
WDNC. I think it's now the Bull. It's now a sports talk station, 620. I think.
And you were a disc jockey back in the 70s.
We were rocking back then, man. Come on.
Yeah. And what was your format?
The top 40, of course.
All right.
It doesn't really exist anymore, but it was fun back then.
That's awesome, Rob. I love that about you. I just love that. We must move on to bigger and brighter things. So, if you would please, sir, tell us about LaCroix.
Glad to get serious, Sven. Absolutely. LaCroix wrote in, and its subject line said, cheating and deceit. And the message was this: years ago, I committed emotional infidelity against my wife of now 13 years. Obviously, there's more to it than that. It came out because she discovered that I was hiding porn from her and being deceitful about it. I then confessed to the infidelity a few months ago after she caught on to the porn, and we've been trying to navigate everything ever since. We have 2 kids, 12 and 9, who would suffer greatly from a divorce, but we're struggling and I don't know how to make it right. We have a lot of other issues as well that no doubt feed into this major problem, but I want to change. I want to be better, and I don't want to lie or be deceitful to anyone anymore, especially myself. I'm currently in therapy, trying to work through this situation, and it's helping. I consume your video content regularly and would love to chat with you, even if it puts the final nail in the coffin of my marriage. Thank you.
All right, LaCroix, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right, so don't want to be deceitful anymore. I respect that. So running with that, I would like it if you would, just so I can get it straight in my head. I'm a little slow. So just give me the timeline then. You've been married 13 years. So it's 2026. That would be roughly since 2013, correct?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay, 2013. And you cheated on her in this emotional infidelity. When was that?
It was 2018, I believe, when that took place.
2018, when that took place. And what was the duration of that affair?
Well, it was in 2018. There was one particular conversation where this woman and I had an inappropriate exchange of messages, and we exchanged inappropriate pictures of one another, and then it kind of, the day that happened, I ended up deleting everything and kind of feeling really, really awful about it, and then I chose to keep it under my hat, of course, and then a few years later, I think around 2021, I had reached out to her again, and kind of got shut down. And then it kind of, I never really talked to her again. I had previously known this woman when I was going through school, and we did have a very brief history with one another, and then, such as life, you lose contact, and it kind of, every once in a while we check in with one another, and that's kind of how the whole thing came about.
Gotcha. And when you say going through school, kindergarten, high school, college, plumbing school, what are we talking about?
Oh, that was it was high school, everything. She was in my younger brother's class, so I
Got it.
always kind of knew her.
Got it. And so when you wrote then in your write-up that you went through emotional infidelity, technically that's not quite true, is it?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know the exact definitions on that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what you would call doing the illicit pictures and
Right, right.
whatnot, but
And then
yeah.
when you said, obviously there's more to it than that. When you say there's more to it than that, what are you referring to?
There's just a lot of details and a lot of, and I am a recovering alcoholic, and so there was a lot of things at play there with being deceitful that I think it all kind of wrapped in on itself. And as far as specifically with the infidelity, there was a time when I was talking to her, um, years after it must have been around 2021. That she was back around the area, and I was offering a place to stay, and it never materialized. But that was kind of a huge line that was crossed, and that I didn't kind of realize at the time. And I was just at the time very, very blind to the hurt and the pain that I had already inflicted, unbeknownst to her.
Yeah. Hurt that you had inflicted on your wife, you mean? Or,
Correct. Yes.
right,
Yes.
right, right. And offer her a place to stay in your own home or a separate location?
In our home, yeah,
Oh,
in our
wow.
house.
Oh,
We have
wow.
a very large home with a large basement.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
That was,
it's
I'm
not good.
sure, I'm sure when, how did your wife find out about that one?
Well, let me start by saying I made every classic mistake when it started with her catching the porn thing, and then I was kind of coming clean about that, and then it's like, is there anything else? So then I fessed to the infidelity part, and then I did everything that you're not supposed to do. I downplayed things. I did half truths. And it took some pulling to get it out of me, and that was one of the major details that came out that was like, yeah, very, very devastating.
Oh, she hit
And
the
I
ceiling.
understand why.
She hit the ceiling on that one, as anyone would. Okay, so then the porn thing. Let's just get the timeline on that. With regard to the infidelity, you've been married since 2013. Then that shit happened in 2018. It got resurrected in 2021. Didn't really go anywhere. So then, tell me the timeline on the porn stuff.
Just slight backstory. I used to work like maritime, and I would be gone on a boat for a couple weeks at a time or whatever. And so we kind of had an understanding. She was okay with me viewing that kind of stuff while I was away. She understands there's needs and whatnot, but she had been clear that she didn't want me looking at that stuff while I was home. And I, admittedly, I guess I didn't take that seriously. And it just, I guess it was kind of a problem that I had that I didn't treat as a problem. And so then it came up. I ended up going on OnlyFans. I think maybe 2023 was when I first created that account. And there was a few people on there that I had followed, and then, paid, $10 here or there for additional access. There was one in particular that there was some small talk chat back and forth, but nothing explicit, although, was outside the marriage. So the porn thing came to light at the beginning of November. And then that's, she had just, she was using my phone for some reason and saw a tab that was open. And so I came clean as best as I thought I could at that time, which wasn't very good. And then it proceeded, and I admitted to the infidelity. And so, yeah,
Okay. So that was
hopefully
November of 25 that came out. And you had a
correct.
tab open. So that means you were using it even as recently as November of 25, if you still had a tab open.
Yeah. Yeah. Within the previous few days. Yes.
Gotcha. And then so you guys get in talking about the porn stuff. You're coming partly clean on that, while trying to maintain that illusion of transparency, but still withholding information. Then she asked, "Well, what else is there?" And then you went on and told her some of the other stuff, while still trying to maintain an illusion of transparency, and you withheld some stuff, and so on and so forth. But everything that you've told me, presumably she knows now.
Correct. Yes.
Gotcha. Gotta ask, what have you not told her?
Well, there's really nothing that I haven't told her other than it's this situation that I wish, I caused it myself. I wish we weren't in this, and I wish, so many things, but because it happened, years prior, there's just details, she'll ask me for details on things. And I for the longest time, it's like I can't pull up these specific details. And
When it comes all those details that she wants to know about, and just all the details, what percent are you not able to remember them? Are you just not able to? And what percent do you not want to? If you were to be totally honest, remember, you came here for me to help you, so I can only help you if you tell me
right,
the truth.
that's a good question. I mean, maybe 70-30 of, there's things I just simply don't remember versus, things I don't want to remember. And I feel like not wanting to remember things and then not remembering things, that it probably feeds into itself in some
And
way on that.
fair, yeah, and
Um,
fair. And so, of all the things, sort of areas of all the things that you've listed for us that you have done, which, by the way, good job publicly recounting what you've done and so forth, and not easy to do, and humiliating and so forth. So thumbs up on that. Of all the things that that you've done, the things you've recounted, and the things that, just areas, there's the porn, there's the there's the OnlyFans, there's the emotional affair, there's the sending the dick pics, there's the whatever. Of all the stuff, what is the aspect of all of it, as well as all your feelings, as well as your marriage, as well as the kids, all of it? What is the part you least want to think about?
I guess if I'm going to go one specific thing, it was the day that I got into that conversation with her and sent those messages and pictures back and forth. It's I mean, just seeing the hurt that I've caused my wife is just, I mean, yeah.
Okay, take us back there. And as a person who has cheated on one of my two wives, my first one back in my 20s, and who was cheated on by both my wives, and I was the co-cheater over 30 times with people who were cheating on their husbands or on their wives, believe it or not,
Mhm.
with a woman. So lesbian relationships. I'll be very honest with you. I'm going to be totally honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't buy that it was just one day, one time. Now,
Okay.
I believe you're an honest guy. I do. But I also know I've counseled over 30 years so many people on every aspect of cheating, and I have been there myself. And I know how strong that impulse is to protect oneself. I know how strong it is. I do. And
Yeah.
we just live in different days from old school and whatever. But I just find it hard to believe that it was just one time that you hadn't thought about it, and just that one day, okay, I'm just going to do it this one day. It's like, fuck that shit. You wanted to see her fucking naked since you were in fucking high school, since she was your fucking brother's little fucking friend, and you guys resurrected her. You had this fucking emotional infidelity. Bullshit. You wanted to fucking jump her bones. I mean, and okay, so that's where I'm coming in. So I'm coming in, Mr. fucking skeptical. All right. So
Right.
forgive me for being a dick. I'm coming in skeptical. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong about the thoughts behind that. Yeah, for sure. It was always a lust-filled urge with this particular woman. And as far as the day, that was the one and only time that there was any kind of pictures or anything sent back and forth. But I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was
So
for
then,
the longest time.
fair, but that tells
Yeah.
me if you could have gotten more every other day of the week, you fucking would have.
At that time, probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
if we're being really honest, how old are you, by the way, LaCroix?
I'm 37.
37. All right. So we're talking about this was happening in 18. So we're talking about 8 years ago. So you were about 29. Okay. Just want to know. I'm just trying to check testosterone levels here because Pat was 29, man. Jesus, Mary and Joseph. All right. So anyway, so there was, to use your words, lust-filled urge, of course. So then let me ask you this. You characterized it, however, as emotional infidelity. And I want to know then why, and I'm really fucking drilling down here because you said to me, I don't want to be deceitful anymore, but I want to know how to make it right. And
Right.
honest to God, this is how. All right. Now, and we're working in that direction. I want to know what fundamentally was missing in your life. If you're in an emotional affair, if I go to the store and I buy a Butterfinger, it's because I don't have a Butterfinger. I want one. If I go and people say that we look for in our next relationship what was most lacking in our last relationship, at least in part. So if I'm engaged in an affair with someone, it's because I believe that something is lacking here. So if you say you were engaged in emotional, and you did say, well, I'm not sure what the proper language is. Okay, we'll run with emotional infidelity for the moment. You want to change your mind on that language later? We can change your mind. But you call it emotional infidelity. So then let me ask you, what precisely was missing from your life that you were getting from this relationship with this woman in the year of 2018 and that you sought to resurrect in 2021? But let's just say 2018. What really was it that you were getting from that relationship?
Looking back, and of course, since this happened, I've been trying to analyze all of my moves since then, and just, I think maybe what it was is that I just have never quite felt fully understood or equal within this marriage. And I mean, I'm obviously not a psychologist or anything, but if I had to kind of wager a guess, I was looking for something from the other woman because we had known each other before. We were friends, and
And so what do you think? You said, and I was wanting something from this other woman. What precisely then were you wanting? Put it in one sentence or less.
Somebody that understood me without criticism and without caveats.
We're going to explore that some more when we come back. For now, we're going to take a quick break.
I've read so many self-help books, and I always get something good out of them. But when I dove into There's a Hole in My Love Cup, well, it changed me. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. My copy is very dog-eared and highlighted. Thanks, Sven, for writing it. I love There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and believe you will also. Order your copy at badasscounseling.com.
This show provides soul counseling intended to entertain and inform and is not medical advice. back to the badass.
And we are back with LaCroix. LaCroix, you talked about never feeling fully understood or equal in this marriage. And what you were wanting was to feel understood without criticism or caveats. I'm going to try to rewind that tape a bit. In my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, I make the assertion that every problem that exists in a relationship, in a marriage specifically, but every problem that exists in a relationship predates that relationship. In other words, everything going on with your wife, it existed before you two ever even knew each other.
Right.
And very often, one of the themes that we see on this show, and of course I see it in my practice, is that the patterns that we're playing out in our relationship are patterns that I've been fucking playing out since I'm in my 20s. I was doing this. This is how I thought in my teenage years. This is how I thought as a kid, and this is how I acted, etc. So when you say I never felt fully understood or equal in the marriage, and I was wanting to feel understood without criticism or caveat, I'm inclined to ask, when you say I never felt fully understood or equal in the marriage, would it be reasonable to assume that that is sort of how you felt growing up as well?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think looking back on my whole life, I have never, I mean, you talk a lot about your authentic self, and that is such a foreign concept to me that I don't even know where to begin in that. And so, yeah, I mean, I think looking back at my childhood and stuff, there was definitely, an act or a portrayal, that I was after and just trying to please, those around me. Yeah, so I think that's probably a fair assessment. And I don't want, I don't want this to sound in any way like I'm trying to blame her for any kind of, misunderstanding me or anything like that. I don't want it to sound like that.
Fair.
I think your assessment's right. But yeah.
Right. Fair. And I appreciate that. You're accepting the blame and all that. But on the other hand, what I would offer to you is, who gives a shit how it sounds? Just fucking be honest. If that is how you are feeling, that I felt like I never felt fully understood or equal in the marriage, then that's how you fucking felt. If that's how you felt, that's how you fucking felt. Who gives a shit how you fucking look? That's how I felt. Now, one of the things I talk about in my new book that's coming out specifically on cheating is that the big mistake we make as cheaters and as therapists often make, in fact, all the time, is that we assume that in a case like that, I never felt fully understand or equal in the marriage, and I was wanting to be understood without criticism or caveat, because basically you're always being criticized and there are always fucking caveats in your fucking marriage, is we assume that because there's a problem in the marriage, that's why I cheated. And what I'm saying is the problems in your marriage have nothing to do with your cheating, that it goes back to the original belief system that you were taught to believe about yourself, which was, oh shit, I never felt fully understood or equal in the marriage. So you're still trying to get that need met. And even if you had gotten that in the marriage, that feeling of feeling misunderstood or not, even if you were getting it from an outside source, your own personal self believes I'm not understandable. I'm not good enough the way I am. That's the message you get as a child. And so we think if I can just get someone to give me appreciation, then I am lovable. It's just like you still believe you aren't. You still believe you're not good enough. And so the point is that the problem isn't the marriage. That's where it's easiest to point the finger. And we think if we can just solve the marriage, then that solves the cheating. No, the solve of the cheating is the beliefs that created that. You created this marriage, at least half of it, you created it because you chose something that was familiar. You ended up choosing a situation and creating a situation where you weren't understood. Well, guess what? That's familiar to you. You've been living that way your whole life. You
Yeah.
wouldn't fucking know what to do with somebody as much as you crave someone to understand you. That would be so fucking disorienting for you. I am curious. You had said your whole life it's been or as a childhood, it was an act or a portrayal. And if you didn't, then what would happen? I'm curious.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have a solid answer for it. I mean, I guess it's probably based in fear and
Where did you get the message that you had to put on an act or a portrayal? Why did you get the message that just being yourself wasn't okay? How did you get that message? How was that conveyed?
I think it was from probably both my parents in certain ways.
How?
My
How
how,
was it conveyed?
extreme criticism on every decision. I you know told to do more. You can be better, but what are you doing? You have potential. What are you doing? Anger, anger from my mother. I think it was a big one, and from my father as well.
Mm.
Um,
So those messages of you have potential, do more, be better, were then supercharged with high emotion of the anger. And so what's the child going to do? Anything to make you not be angry at me. You want me to do better? I'll do better. I promise I'll do better. I'll work harder. I'll do better. I'll meet all my potential. I'll work so hard. Just don't be angry at me. Don't be angry at me. Or
yeah.
the kid will go the opposite direction, and it's just like, fuck, what's the point of trying? Even when I do better, you don't even fucking notice anyway. I'm checking out. I'm going to hit the bottle, or I'm going to, smoke weed all day or whatever. But it sounds like, based on your one little reference about how big that house is, and you had room in your basement to house somebody, that tells me you've probably done very, very well for yourself, which tells me you did do better. You did hit your potential, or a lot of it. You did do more. You've been a successful man, haven't you?
Yes, in some ways. Although if I'm gonna be honest, I really, I do have much more potential and much more in
Well,
me that I can live
exactly.
up to.
That is exactly what I knew you were going to say because their
Yeah.
messages of you have so much potential, do more. Even if you could fucking, you are my consummate client. Every single one of my clients, they like
Oh,
conquer the world. It's like, oh, it's not good enough. It's never enough because they were conditioned to believe that they aren't good enough. No matter what they do, it's never good enough. You're just not lovable the way you are. And so you're fucking, you're just constantly jumping through hoops. It's never fucking good enough. Yeah, that was a fucking predictable answer. And so let me ask you then, if you had this extreme criticism and these messages, what did young LaCroix grow up believing about himself?
the things I was doing were incorrect or not good enough, and I always had to improve on anything and everything I said or did.
Always had to improve. And so did that, a dumb question, but an honest question, did that feel like growing up and teenage years and 20s and so forth, did that feel like a lot of pressure?
I mean, yes and no. The interesting thing is like, academically, I was never, pushed to get straight A's and stuff like that, but it was always like I said, it was always, you can do better. You have potential. You can do better. And yeah, I think there was pressure there, and also, I think probably some self-imposed pressure from myself because I would look at like my father who ran his own business and was a self-made person and worked extremely hard to provide for his family, and I wanted to be like that, of course, like every kid looking up to their father probably does. And so
Sure.
there was probably some self-imposed pressure there.
Yeah, sure, maybe, but you had already had massive, you had been mainlining injections of do more, you can do better, you can do better, you can do better. Right. And so I'm out of curiosity, did you ever get the message when you did accomplish this or that? Did you ever get the message, wow, good job. That's enough. Wow, good job.
I definitely got kudos. There was never anything like, hey, that's enough. You're good. Like, I don't know if that's a valid point they would make, but I would definitely get kudos
Okay. Did you ever
and
get
yeah,
because the underlying message, if you're constantly, it would seem, and you correct me on this if I'm wrong, it would seem if you're always getting the message that you always had to improve, the underlying message is you're never good enough. The
right,
underlying message is no matter what you do, you're fucked. No
right,
matter what you do, you're simply intrinsically not good enough.
yeah,
Right. And
yeah,
so, who would want to fucking live that way? I would want to escape if I knew that I simply was not good enough, no matter how much I do. It's never good enough. And that's
yeah,
why, of course, you feel criticized. And of course, there are always caveats. It's just never enough. It's never enough. You want more. You want more. It's never enough. I will never be good enough. Yeah. Guess what? I'm going to start downloading fucking porn too. And I might even pick up a fucking cocaine habit or a fucking Jack Daniels habit. All I'd want to do is fucking
yeah,
escape. I'm never good enough. It's just like, fuck, man.
yeah. The way you framed it is coming into the marriage with these issues is good to hear and is refreshing because I definitely especially throughout all this, the last thing I want to do is try to just completely shift the blame onto my wife and just be like, you this and all that kind of stuff. And I think by the time my wife and I had started our courtship and we're doing our thing, and then we got we had our kid and got married and all that kind of stuff. I think had already resigned myself to, whatever. I'm just gonna sleepwalk through this. Yeah, I have a decent job, but it's I there's no reason for me to push to excel in this job. It's paying the bills. It's doing what we need for where we're at, and so and I would just kind of kick back, and that would be it. Which is has become now over these years has become a big problem, and you know
What's the
I
problem?
just
Wait, what are you saying has become the big problem?
it has become a big problem. Just I think just being complacent and not wanting to push myself for even if it's like, hey, there might be a promotion coming up in this job that you would be good for. I mean, this exact thing didn't quite happen, but just as an example, then I would be, I'd make up all kinds of excuses of
And
why I
what's
don't
the
want that
reason?
promotion. I don't
And
want to
what's
do
the
that
real reason?
because it doesn't matter anyway. I'm not good enough, I guess. Yeah,
Right. I'm sick of trying. I'm just sick of trying. I'm sick of fucking being on the goddamn hamster wheel and going and going and going. It's not that I couldn't. You could probably kill it. You'd probably kick it in the ass. I have no doubt you would kill anything that you've attempted, just like you've done your whole life. But what's the point?
yeah,
What's the fucking point of running myself ragged through this life? It's never going to be good enough. I'm never going to get the appreciation I want, but you think you have to get the appreciation in order to feel appreciated, in order to fill up your love cup. But the problem is they poked a hole in the bottom. That's the problem. So it's
yeah,
never enough. There are not enough girls on OnlyFans. There are not enough fucking porn websites. There are not enough ex-lovers. There are not. And as a guy who has co-cheated with over 30 women, and who had that was my fucking thing. It wasn't booze, it wasn't coke, it wasn't that was my thing. Co-cheating with the wives of other men and other women. And that was my fucking thing. And so I fucking get it. And there aren't enough. If there's a hole in your love cup, it doesn't matter how much other people are pouring love into, it is not enough. And you're hoarding more and more.
yeah,
It's not enough. And the original message is that you were taught to believe is you're just not good enough. And so, yeah, you just reach a point where it's like, fuck, I'm sick of fucking trying. But here's the thing. So we seek to check out. And what you're trying to check out from, it's not just that you're trying to get someone to appreciate you. It's also that you're trying to get some kind of drug to just escape the pressure and the just like fuck and the criticisms and the negativity and from outside of you, but also from inside of you. So no, it's not about blaming your wife or
Yeah.
blaming your marriage per se. It's just, it's so much. Here's how it breaks down though. Here's the simple breakdown. Well, actually, let me ask you this first. Let me ask you this. What, at least presently, is your wife's greatest accusation towards you? What presently, and this has been going on since November, since all this came out, since November of 2025, what is her present giant accusation or question, or what is she struggling with most right now?
One
What?
major thing she's struggling with is just the complete destruction of trust and the realization that I have been deceitful for all those years. But I think I mean, there's been a lot of conversation lately about me switching jobs and trying to get something that works a little better for the family and for our schedules and stuff like that. And I think in that there has been a lot of talk about just she's actually mentioned that she needs somebody that's more driven and that is more motivated um just kind of do better
Whoa,
and
whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, okay, okay. Hold on. So, isn't this fascinating that literally 4 minutes ago, you and I were talking about how you're sick of fucking trying because you're never fucking good enough. And now, 4 minutes later, it's like, I need someone who's more driven. It's like you want to get off the hamster wheel, and she wants someone who wants to spin that hamster wheel twice as fast. I'm curious. She says she needs someone who's more driven. What precisely is the need that is being fulfilled? Why is it a need? Does she need more money? What are we referring to? She needs someone who's more driven. Why?
that's a good question.
Because you just gelled two things together. She said yeah, she wants you to switch jobs. I thought you said so it's better for the family or closer to the family, something like that. And then
right,
you
yeah,
said, and she needs someone who's more driven. Those
Mhm.
almost sound like two different issues.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I had gotten the schedule of being on the boat and being away was very very difficult, and we did that for the better part of a decade. And so that with the schedule, with her taking the whole mental load at home by herself, including housework, all working full-time job like that, and that was a lot. I completely understand that. And so then I ended up getting this job where it's a hour and a half round trip each day. So it cuts into, our kids are old enough that there's sports and there's all that kind of extracurricular stuff. And so, even something as simple as like, hey, the kid's sick and needs to be picked up at school. Like I can't really feasibly do that. I mean, I could, but it's not as so.
Okay, so
And,
so that's one issue, the
right.
distance, the help a family. But then you bring up, I need someone who's more driven, she said.
Right.
What precisely does she need? What is it about driven that she needs? What does that mean?
Well, there is better job opportunities with more room to go up and more
So we're
room
talking
to
about money.
I don't think it's necessarily money. I
Then
think it's
what
more
is
just
it? Why does she need someone who can go up? So she can say, my husband's the vice president. What does she need? What are we talking about? Better control of your time, more money, prestige? What the fuck are we talking about, LaCroix?
I think I man, I if
You know her
yeah, I
better
think
than
maybe
anyone. What are we talking about? Because she's fundamentally wanting to make demands of you. She is fundamentally saying to you, let's just be crystal clear. She is criticizing, saying, I don't like the man that you are right now. I want someone more driven. I want you to do more, be better. You have more potential. Do those messages sound familiar?
Yes.
Those are the exact messages you told me you got growing up. And she's fundamentally saying the same thing. And I want to know what specifically she wants. Is it more money? Because I don't know what the hell else it could be that you're talking about. Is it more control of your time? You don't have to move up in a company
Yeah.
in order to live closer to home necessarily.
She wants me to put in the same amount of effort that she does. She goes above and beyond in her job and does a lot of things. She's very, very, very selfless. And I think, I mean,
Wait, wait,
I'm gonna be
wait,
honest,
wait,
like,
wait. She's
yes,
selfless, but she's saying she wants you to do more. And furthermore, you earlier said that you got the messages that you don't feel understood, and she's critical and she always has caveats. So that's someone who's criticizing you and so on and so forth. And you're saying she wants, I'm still not getting what she wants you to work as hard as her.
I mean, I
You
think she
drive an
feels
hour
like
and a
that
half
she's
round trip each way. You work how many hours every day? Do you work 3 hour work days? Is that what it is?
no,
Oh,
it's 8 hours. Yeah.
oh. So you work an 8 hour work day. You drive 45 minutes on the front end. You drive 45 minutes on the back end. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you make a good income?
It's okay for around here. Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay.
There's definitely better things, but yeah.
So what precisely then is the problem?
I think, I mean, being totally honest, I mean, I have never really thought too much about what is behind her wanting me to be more driven. So if sitting here right here, I think maybe it's that she feels like she has poured a lot into this marriage, into this family, into her work, into all this stuff, and by contrast, it looks as though I have poured very little
How
into
does it
each
look?
of those things.
I'm still not okay. So now I'm asking a separate question. How does it look like you have not poured a lot in? You were off in doing your maritime on a goddamn boat. You want me to pick a job that I would hate? I went into the Air Force Academy and deliberately did not go to the Naval Academy because the idea of being on a boat, I
Yeah.
go water skiing. That's all the boat I want to do. I'll go canoeing in the Boundary Waters canoe area of northern Minnesota. But the idea of being like out on the ocean, no fucking way. Lake Superior, no fucking way. That's hard ass work. No, thank you.
Yeah.
How is that not you pulling your share of the weight? How? Help me understand how.
Because I could have in my career, I never really did my maritime career. I never really did much to advance myself. As far as there's a very particular structure with you have engineers and stuff like that,
Yep.
and like so I was an unlicensed engineer, and I mean I remain so. I could have gotten licensed multiple times over the years. And I just didn't. And so that has been a point of contention. And yeah, and then as far as, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways in which I have not stepped up with family responsibilities and trying to take some of the responsibilities from her, take some of the mental load from her. And let me just throw out too as well
Go ahead.
that a lot of that is completely fair and valid, because for most of my maritime career, when I would come home, I would just get shit faced the whole time.
Okay, so that's
And
a separate
so,
thing. You're right.
yeah.
Fair enough. Let me ask you this. And so,
yeah.
two things. What do you think the reason was that you were getting shit faced all the time? Apart
I was
from,
miserable,
okay, and you were miserable. Why?
just feeling not heard, feeling misunderstood.
Right. And
just
we've
kind
tracked,
of, yeah.
and we have tracked that shit wasn't just unique to your marriage. That goes back all the way to childhood. And you said, and so I gotta ask this question. I gotta ask this fucking question. And the question I want to ask you is, you said multiple times I could have gotten my licensure. Multiple times I chose not to get my engineer's license.
Yeah.
I want you to dig deep, and I want you to to give me a percentage. All right, and I want you to pause before you answer this. Okay. What percent of you choosing to never get your engineer's license, which God bless you, you've clearly made a good living without it, so fuck them, right? But let me ask you this. What percent of you choosing to not get your engineer's license is a giant fuck you? And I'm not just saying to your wife, I'm just saying to like life, to your wife, to your parents, to life. It's like, fuck you. Everybody says I should do more. I have potential. Do more, do more, do more. Fuck you. I'm going to do the fucking minimum that I got to do to fucking get by, make a good living, pay my fucking bills, get off my back. Fuck you. What percentage of you choosing to not get licensed has been a fuck you to life?
Probably if 80%, probably.
That's it.
I mean, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And that fuck you, and that's not just your wife. That shit's been in you your whole fucking life. I mean, as a child, you wanted that fuck you wasn't fully there. The child didn't know he had it, but by the teen years, it really starts to develop, even if you weren't conscious of it, because the child, even now today, is still wanting that approval of the parent, of the wife, you're so wanting to be loved just for who you are, but everybody puts these fucking contingencies on there. Everybody puts these fucking hurdles on you. Everybody puts this shit. It's just like, you got to do this to win my approval. I want more. I want more. I want more. And your heart, your soul, that boy in you, and even the man in you is like, just love me for who I am. Would somebody please just love me for who I am, please? One of the people I talk about in my book on cheating, he was a client I had, fucking 20 years ago. And he was a very successful guy, blue collar guy who had built a successful business. And he comes to me, he's in his, I think late 50s. And a similar situation to yours, but his wife had found out, or he had told her, or however it came out. And he was successful. All his customers loved him. He had a whole fleet of trucks, and I forget what business he owned cranes or whatever the fuck it was, right? And all his customers loved him. All his people loved him. His guys loved him. Women in his office loved him. His kids, but the guy was fucking. He was like fucking. Cheated on his wife over like 25 years of marriage, cheated on her like 30, 35 fucking times, right? And with escorts and shit. I said, what was the best part about the cheating? Kind of like I asked you, what did you get out of it? Or what were you going for? And because he would buy some high end escorts. He'd go to Vegas. I love go to Vegas, Sven. I go to Vegas for the shows. Yeah, sure you do. And I said, what was the best part? I said, that's a lot of happy humping over 25, 28 years, whatever it was. And he says, it wasn't the sex. I'm like, yeah, right. Fuck you. He says, Sven, I hated the sex. I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm like, fuck you. He says, no, seriously, Sven, yeah. I hated the sex, and I hated after the sex. I said, both or just after? He says, no, I hated the sex, and I hated after the sex. 10 minutes after, 10 days after, both. I said, okay, you're going to have to forgive me here. You do it 30 times, whatever, over fucking 20 years, and, some of those multiple times or whatever. I said, you got to help me out here. What the fuck you talking about? He says, Sven, I hated it because I felt so bad. I said, then why the fuck did you do it? Then actually don't even answer that. I said, what did you actually get out of it then? Because you spent some banging money on these girls, these women. I mean, some heavy money. I said, what'd you get out of it? He said, I got dinner. I said, what? Dinner. He said, for 3 hours, I had a beautiful woman on my arm, and maybe people knew she was my escort, fine. But I had this beautiful woman, and for 2 to 3 hours, I had someone saying nice things to me. And even if I had to pay her, and I knew I was paying her, but for 3 hours, 2 hours, I had someone telling me that I was handsome. I had someone telling me that I was a nice person. And like you said, there was no criticism and there were no caveats. I'm sure I had to pay her. And he said I was happy to do it. He says it was just so nice to get just unadulterated kindness and unadulterated praise. And he says, I was more than happy to pay for that. It's very interesting, isn't it? And in a way, it's
Yeah.
similar. And the thing is, his marriage and his kids, everyone was constantly pouring love, expected to pour love into his love cup. He was sort of Mr. Big Shot and all that, but not the point. But the point is that it wasn't about his marriage because he was getting all the love from everybody in his marriage and shit. It
Yeah.
went all the way back. Went all the way back. The messages. It was just never enough, and he had just gotten criticized and put down his whole fucking life. Does that sound
Yeah.
somewhat familiar?
I mean, yeah, it definitely does. I can definitely relate to that in some ways. I do want to be clear though that my wife is there's almost a duality going on here because, even though there's there's criticisms and stuff, at the same time, she can be incredibly supportive and incredibly kind and very encouraging
Oh, I'm not
and,
disputing that.
so
I'm not disputing
right, right.
it.
I just want to make that clear. Yeah.
My point is she's not the problem.
Right, right. Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way. The point is there are three issues going on here. You have three issues in your life. You have three problems. What you are dealing with in your life is three problems. One is the cheating / porn / deception, the actual actions that you've done since 2016, 2018. Okay. The actual actions, the porn, the lying, those are the actions. That's what's caused the destruction of the trust. That's what's caused all the shit. Okay. In a way. But the cheating isn't the real fucking problem. Then, because the second issue you have is the actual marital problem. See, even if you guys even if you hadn't cheated, even if you hadn't used porn in ways that you guys hadn't cleared, right? You had clearance to do it while you're on the boats and all that. But
Yeah.
you guys have marital problems. You guys have fucking marital problems. All right. Now, she's sort of in the catbird seat right now because you cheated. So she can say, nope, none of the problems are mine. Fuck you. You're the problem. We're not looking at marital problems. Fuck you. You cheated. You're the problem. Fuck you. Nope, nope. Fuck you. You cheated. Oh, no. Fuck you. You cheated. Fuck you. You cheated. She doesn't have to answer for anything. Right. But that's a separate issue because you guys had marital problems. I guarantee it. Separate, even if you hadn't cheated, you guys had fucking marital problems. So that's a second issue you're having to deal with. But neither of those is the whopper. The fucking whopper. The shit that's driving your fucking life. The whole reason for your fuck you of not wanting to get your engineer license. The whole reason for your fuck you of not wanting to advance your career. The whole reason for your fuck you in your fucking marriage. The whole reason for you paying money on OnlyFans. The whole reason for everything is a fucking escape, is a desire to just fucking be, because no one wants you for who you are. Everyone wants you for what you can do. And you're sick of doing and doing more and being fucking criticized, and it's never enough. And yeah, you get the attaboys, just like mom and dad. They gave you the attaboys. They gave you the praise. But that's worse. That's worse.
Yeah.
When they are nice, when they mix the praise with the fucking, the carrot and the stick, the whip and the praise. It's just like, because then you're going to work harder to get to that praise. It's like, fuck me, man. No, you've checked out of fucking life. You've been checking out of life since you were young. Why? Because you're sick. You just want to be appreciated for who you are. You got three fucking issues you're dealing with, brother. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask. So, what at what point, because here recently, because of course, since all this blew up in November, my wife and I have been having all kinds of difficult conversations, and there's been all kinds of blowups and all. It's been everything you can imagine. And one of the things that has recently come up, and I do wonder with what you're saying about growing up and stuff, is I'm kind of wondering now, looking at myself and wondering if I am a narcissist in some ways, or if I have some narcissistic tendencies or something. And so, talking about the childhood and how do you delineate, someone who just wants to be who they are and is looking out for their own interests so they can feel secure and they can feel, authentic, versus someone who is a narcissist who cares for nothing but themselves, and, so on and so forth.
Okay. Yeah. The idea, and that's a very popular question I get from people is, am I a narcissist or is my partner a narcissist and stuff like that. Whether or not someone's a narcissist, it really doesn't mean anything. It's just a word. It really doesn't mean anything. Yeah, a clinical narcissist, as fucking diagnosed by a fucking clinician, that's a whole separate thing. And that's such a tiny percentage of the population. Okay, that's a separate thing. But people saying, oh, you're a narcissist, oh, you're a narcissist, it doesn't mean anything. It's a fucking word. What it is what are your actions? And what I heard you describing there is someone who it's all about yourself and so on and so forth. I don't hear that at all. I'm telling you, you're the opposite. You are literally the opposite. You are literally a person who has been driven by, and I'm not saying from your wife's experience. Your wife's experience is, oh, you're just always getting drunk and you're doing porn and you're with these women. And that, from her perspective, that makes sense. And she's right. From where I'm sitting, oh, hell no. Your entire life has been driven by the mentality that you're never good enough. You need to do more.
Yeah.
That I don't give a fuck who you authentically are, son. Do more. There is no authentic you. Just do more. Do more. You're not okay the way you are. The idea of sitting still and you just be, and you're just good the way you are, no, that doesn't exist. There is no authentic you. There's the you who's going to do more and find your greatest potential and make me proud. You exist to make me proud. Yeah. You exist to hit my numbers, to be as successful or more successful than your old man or whatever it is. It's just like, fuck. You've been on somebody else's fucking agenda for your life. So the notion that you're a narcissist, and I'm not talking about some clinical fucking thing, but the notion that it's all about you, while your wife, I don't doubt that your wife feels that way. I don't doubt that at all. From her perspective, I can see why she feels that way. But from where I'm sitting, no, you look like, to me, like someone who has had their life robbed from them.
Yeah, well, and I think part of what feeds into her thinking that way too is we were just talking about, because I've been trying therapy for years, and I think I have a good counselor now that I really click with, and it really seems to understand a lot of things. But I also, in previous therapy stuff, I never talked about the infidelity, and I never talked about my deceit, and I just never brought it up. And part of the reason is, with the narcissist thing is, it's like, well, is that just like an arrogant self-protection thing? Then I'm just like, well, no, I don't want to actually face that. I don't want to talk to this therapist about this because, it's too ugly.
Of course. You're ashamed. Yeah. Of course. So, right. And you've been, you're expected to be a good boy and to succeed and so on and so forth. And you're ashamed of that. But all of the cheating was an attempt to escape. It was an attempt to feel something. It was an attempt to feel alive and to just get off the fucking hamster wheel. Just like all the booze, every time you came home from work, you were fucking miserable. And it was an attempt to just escape how fucking miserable your life was. Of course, the cheating, the same. So what you've got then is you have three problems that have to be sorted through. The cheating, which is the surface. Second are the marriage problems, which aren't going to be touched. Your wife likely isn't wanting to touch the marriage problems right now. So you've got the cheating, but then your real issue for your life, and this is the one that should be your number one priority, but is likely going to get shoved to number 3 priority, because your wife wants you to do what she wants you to do. She wants someone who's more driven. And as a person who wanted my wife to want me, I just made all sorts of wild promises. I'm going to do more. I'm going to work harder, and we're going to have season tickets to the blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. And it's just like, and it took a couple of years before I got off that hamster wheel, and I realized I'm just promising stuff because I don't want to lose her. When in fact, losing her, in my case, this may not be your case in the end, but losing her was the best thing that could have happened to me, because it set me free to finally just become who I am rather than wanting to keep her, because I wanted to keep her. Why? Because she was at least pouring some love into my love cup. You said your wife could be sweet and she can be so kind. Yeah, you're getting
Of
some
course, yeah.
love, some appreciation poured into your fucking love cup. So what I'm recommending is you need to start reading my book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup. There's no question, because that's going to take you down deeper than in all likelihood your therapist is taking you, because you need to be getting down into your childhood messaging, because that's where all of this finds its origin. The cheating, the marital problems, the fact that, you're still, have someone in your life who's still pushing you to work harder and do more and do more. It's just like, and you're not wanting to get your engineering license and all that, that all goes back to childhood. That's all that original messaging. And if you don't address that, anything you do to fix the problems up on the surface are just fucking Band-Aids. Because you're not going to have the motivation to sustain any grand new drives. Why? Because you're still are going to have that fuck you. And I'm sick of running. I'm sick of working so hard for nothing. I'm putting in 90% effort to get 10% return on investment because I just get a few attaboys, but then it's like, I got to do more. I got to do more. There's always more expected.
Yeah.
And that shit will drain you. And you're, what, 37? Shit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you consider yourself lucky that you're having this experience now and not at fucking 58 or 65.
Yeah.
But what I would recommend with regard to the cheating is come clean on all of it. What I would recommend with regard to the her trust issues is stop selling. And I'm not saying you are. We didn't get into selling, but let her have her trust issues for as long as she wants to have them, but also only for as long as you can handle it. And that is to say, some people will hang on to that as their badge to be a fucking asshole for years and years and years and years. Okay. But then some people who've done the cheating will be like, well, are you over it yet? Come on. Are you over it yet? And it's still fresh with you guys. But a year from now, she still won't fully trust you. She's not going to. It takes years. It does.
Yeah.
And it's hard and it's frustrating. And so you've got to basically get into the mentality of just letting go of us being close anytime soon, because you're not going to be. You're going to have momentary flashes and you're going to be thinking, oh, good, it's changing now. No, it's not. It's a momentary flash. What I'm about to tell you is the biggest thing that you can do. And in the short term, it's not a solution that yields short-term results, midterm results, but right away, is it going to help you for what to say to your wife? No. But the biggest thing that you need to do is go into that original messaging, because if you go deep, get the book, There's a Hole in My Love Cup, and start doing all the journaling exercises. Make sure all of your journaling is fucking private. No one has access to it. This has got to be your conversation with your own fucking self, but you've got to go into yourself, because that's where the deepest change is going to come. And the deeper you go, the faster effect it's going to have up on the surface and how you're interacting with your wife and so on and so forth. Because if you're just trying to change behaviors up on the surface, that shit won't stick, because you're not, all of this is being driven by those core beliefs from way back there. So why don't we go back into those original, not just the messaging and try to change messaging, but the actual events that cause that. And I don't need you to ever confront your living, breathing parent. I don't need you to do that, but I do need you to confront in your memories and all that happened and all that you were taught to believe about yourself and how shitty that was, the way that you were parented. Despite all the good that they did, they taught a child to believe that the child's not good enough. That's not a good, I know you don't want that for your fucking children. All right. So anyway, that's what you need to be diving into is that deeper messaging. You need to back off on pressing her to, and I'm not saying you're presently doing it. I'm just saying if you're doing it, or if you start doing it, back off on pressing her to start trusting you, or we need to get closer or whatever. You need to go into just slow mode, because this is going to take a long time. And, but I would encourage you to not, when it comes to memories and details, just put it all out there and let the chips fall where they will. Because if she gets even one more detail come out, it undermines your trust moving forward.
Yeah.
And then also don't let her get away with you cheated, therefore any marriage problems we have don't exist. No, we still have marriage problems that have nothing to do with my fucking cheating, because it's two people that created this.
Yeah.
And we had, even if I hadn't cheated, we have marriage problems. So you got, again, you have three sets of problems that you are dealing with: the marriage problems, the cheating, and the deeper issue, the biggest issue, and that is your authentic self and the messages that you were taught to believe about yourself. Because on your side of the fence, there's her side of the fence, but on your side of the fence, everything that you've done on your side of the fence has been driven by that core belief system. What final questions do you have for me, LaCroix?
I don't know if I have any questions. I appreciate the, kind of breaking it down like that. And I've never really, I mean, I've wondered, obviously, especially watching your videos and stuff about my childhood and everything. And I guess I never gave it enough credit. And I definitely, I think have, especially with my father, definitely have probably a skewed, view of him. And I think, there's a lot more honesty that needs to be dug up with that whole thing. And so
let me ask you this. Do you think there have ever been times when your wife has simultaneously loved you and hated you at the same time?
of course, that's right now.
Right. Have you ever been in an argument with your wife where you loved her and you wanted to wring her neck at the same time? Sure.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's possible to have mixed feelings. And you need to remember that as you're thinking about your parents' shit, that you can still love them, but that doesn't mean they didn't fuck up. It doesn't mean that you can't go into your past memories and say, I really fucking hate you for what you fucking did. And I don't need you to say it to their face. I need you to admit to yourself, and in your journaling and writing letters that you don't send, admit the authentic feelings of how you feel now and how you felt back then for what they fucking did. Because if you don't do it, you're just keeping those feelings down, and it's those feelings that are causing the fuck yous. It's those feelings that are causing you to hate on yourself, etc. But the more you begin to get out, not only the feelings, but the core beliefs that you were taught to believe about yourself, the more we begin to identify and dislodge those. Fuck, dude, your life, you're going to change. You're going to fucking change, and in the best ways. So I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you. You did a good job. Not just all the coming clean, but you did a good job of looking at the ugly stuff. And I love some of your answers, especially that 80% on why you haven't gone off after that engineer's license, and some of your other answers. And this is what you got to do. But this is where the answers are, man. It's down deep, especially in all that childhood messaging. Get the fucking book, motherfucker. All right?
I will, for sure.
All right. Please stay in touch with the show. I'd really like to track your progress as we move forward, okay?
That'd be great, yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show, LaCroix.
All right, thank you.
You bet. Rob, any final thoughts?
A lot of universal themes here, which there often are in the show, but this seemed like more than most. I think a lot of people can identify with these situations. And all I can say to LaCroix is, if confession is good for the soul, you're well on your way, dude.
Yeah. Amen to that. Amen to that.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. For sure. So, on behalf of the team, thank you, LaCroix, and on behalf of all of our listeners as well, thanks for sharing your story. Cheating is a very hard thing to talk about and admit and come clean about, because you look like a fucking asshole when you do, and that's hard to do. But boy, that's to your point, Rob. That's where the healing is, and but the real stuff is inside, and the stuff in the past. And that's where we went, and we uncovered some good shit. Good job, LaCroix. Slay your demons. Have a kick-ass day.
The Badass Counseling Show is strictly copyrighted. No copies may be made without the express written consent of the Badass Counseling Show, LLC. The Badass Counseling Show is produced by Karen Camparelli and Robert H. Friedman. Executive producer Sven Erlandson. Original music by two-time Emmy Award-winning composer Trevor Morris. Have a kick-ass day.